Welcome to another 20 Minutes of Truth. I asked a couple of lessons, other than I think one. I talked about events at the end time in the book of Revelation. And today I want to kind of continue that thought process as well. The first one, we talked about the 70 weeks prophecy that Daniel gave us, focusing on that the 70th week is the last final 7 years. And then the last lesson, I talked about timelines that are shown in the book of Revelation, and how that the tribulation period is actually only 3.5 years itself. So there's a final 7 years, but the tribulation period itself does not take place till halfway through those final 7 years. And all the scriptures, I gave 6 scriptures that shows us that the tribulation period is only 3.5 years. And it's written 3 different ways, according to days, months, and then also years. Today I want to get into right at the middle of that period, the middle of the 7th week, or the middle of the final 7 years. And I'll show you how the Antichrist gains power at that time, but also some other things that are in there as well. Now you have to understand, with prophecy, and this is any prophecy in the Bible, during the prophecy it can skip time. So sometimes it could be speaking about the time right then and there, and then sometimes the prophecy can skip and speak about something that takes place in the New Testament while it's speaking about something taking place then, and at the same time can also have reference to something that takes place in the end time. So you have to kind of understand how prophecy goes. Even the scriptures themselves will skip times. You go back to Genesis, where it talks about Cain and Abel being born, and then the very next sentence it says what they did when they were adults. So even within the same verse, it skips a whole lot of time sometimes. And prophecy, Revelation is prophecy. It is a foretelling of what will take place. So it's the same thing takes place here. So you will see. That's why I said Revelation is not chronological order. It goes back and forth. Sometimes John is up to this point of it, and then comes back. Sometimes he goes forward, and then sometimes he gives more details of something that he's already spoken about. You'll kind of see some of that today as well. But I want to get into Revelation chapter 12. Chapter 12 is a pivotal point of Revelation. It gives us the middle point of what's going on. It goes into some of chapter 13 with some more detail. I'm going to try to get into 13 a little bit today if I'm able to. But I really want to focus on chapter 12 today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Chapter 12, verse 1. And we're going to do the whole chapter. It's only 17 verses. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now again, Revelation is always, it's a vision, it's prophecy. Things John gives to us are symbolism. It's symbolic of what he is seeing. So here, this is a symbolic verse of describing a woman. She's clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and she's got a crown of 12 stars. Joseph, when he had his dream and his vision, he saw the sun and the moon and the 11 stars at the time bow down to him, which, as he told the dream to his family, Jacob knew and understood who he was speaking to. Jacob was his son, his mother was the moon, and of course the stars were his 11 brothers. So as we're referring to this now, it's referring to the 12 tribes, the 12 stars, the 12 tribes of Israel, Israel being the son, and of course the moon, the mother. It's referring to Israel, it's speaking of Israel. We'll get more of that because it's going to tell us this. Verse 2, she being with child cried, travailing in birth, in pain to be delivered. Verse 3, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. So now he's seeing another vision, another part of this. Doesn't mean it's the same part of right here, but it's another part of this. There appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. So now he sees this great dragon. We've seen this this part of this in different places throughout Revelation about having 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns. And in some places it talks about the 10 horns having 10 crowns. So when you're looking at this, you have to kind of figure out what is it referring to. It helps us to look at chapter 17 with this verse. Actually, if you go to chapter 17, verses 9 and 10, it is talking about Babylon, the harlot mother, the mystery, and it describes her in verses 9 and 10. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings. So then verse 9 describes the mother harlot, or mother Babylon, the great mystery of Babylon. The false prophet is what it's referring to. But verse 10 talks about the alliance that she has with the political world. Verse 10 says there are 7 kings, as was referring there. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. So the one that is talking about the time of John, because John's the one seeing this vision. So the one that is the Roman government. 5 are fallen, so you can just go backwards into that. So that's number 6. Number 5 would be for him Greece. Before that was the Medo-Persians, Babylon, Assyria, Egyptian empire started all of it way back into the Old Testament. Those are the 5. The 6 is Roman government. The 7th is not yet to come. It's referring to the Antichrist. And he must continue a short space. So we'll get that again when we get into chapter 12 or 13. 1 and 2 tells us the same thing. That is. So then when you go back to verse 3, it's referring to the dragon. It's going to tell us it's Satan later on. But the 7 heads, it tells you what the 7 heads were, and the 10 horns. It's that marriage of the false prophet and the Antichrist is what that is. And the 7 crowns upon his head, as it talked about those kingdoms, that marriage that will take place in the end time. Verse 4, now it's going to go back in time. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. So that's talking about going back in time when he led that rebellion in heaven, and 1/3 of the angels, because you go in Revelation, sometimes in chapter 1 it tells you the stars are referring to angels. So the stars of heaven, the 3rd part of the angels were cast. He brought them on down with him because they fell into his rebellion with him. And that's what that's referred to, because it's trying to describe what this dragon is. So it's giving you descriptive forms of this. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So now it skips up ahead to when Israel's about to give birth to the Messiah. And we'll get that here in a couple of verses, next couple of verses. And the devil's right there. The dragon's right there ready to destroy him. Verse 5, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. We know that's referring to Jesus. Verse 6, now it's going to skip time again. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her 1,260 days. I showed you last time that the 1,260 days comes out on a Jewish calendar to exactly 3.5 years. So now this jumps forward into this final time here of the last 3.5 years. And it's going to give a little bit more detail in this same chapter about that scripture of how she is protected and a place is given to her. So we're going to go on. Verse 7, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. It's important that verse 8, especially where it says that there was never found a place any more after this war in heaven for him. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, and here it calls him the dragon, the devil, and Satan, which deceives the whole world, and was cast out unto the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Verse 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuses them before our God day and night. So those verses there tells us this is not the original war that took place, as it was referred to in verse 4. This is another time that the devil and his angels go to heaven and they start another war, because he loses again. And it tells us in verse 8 that there was never found a place anymore in heaven for him. And it tells you he was cast down from there to the earth again. And verse 10 tells us that he was cast out, which accused them before God day and night. He is considered the accuser of the brethren. Now we know this is not the first time, because you go back to Job and you see Satan coming before God and accusing. That's what he does. He accuses us. He's walking to and fro. He's able to go to heaven. He's able to come before God all this time until this war takes place, which takes place right here in the middle of this final 7.5 years is where this takes place. And now he's cast out for good. He's no longer able to come into heaven anymore. No longer able to come before the throne of God. This is his end. Verse 11. This describes those that he accused. Remember, it says, the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night, and they overcame him. This is talking about the brethren. They overcame the devil by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. We love to quote the first two parts of that, but we don't bring up the third, because the third is hard. It's tough. We don't want to suffer. We don't like that word. We don't like to have to go through persecution or afflictions and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of skip that. We love, though, we overcome them by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. But there's a third part of that we have to keep in our minds too. That we gave our lives up when we came to Christ to begin with. And he told us that the world would hate us. They would persecute us. They would kill us just like they killed him. So we are not supposed to love our lives unto death, because when we do die this physical death, we are in the presence of the Lord, which is our goal in the first place. So those three go together. Verse 12. Therefore rejoice, you heavens. Why are they rejoicing? And them that dwell in it? Because the devil's kicked out. He's no longer coming. None of his angels are ever coming there again. They'll never see him. But woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has but a short time. Goes back to chapter 17, where he talks about that seventh guy, the Antichrist, knowing he has a short time. So this couples that up, because we know the Antichrist is possessed of the devil, used of the devil to control the earth. So he comes down to the earth because he's now kicked out of heaven with great wrath. This is where the tribulation period starts. As I said before in the last lesson, it's not the tribulation of God or his wrath upon the earth. It's the devil's tribulation and wrath upon the earth on these final 3.5 years. And it will go on and continue to tell us this. And when the dragon saw, verse 13, that he was cast out into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. So he was mad. And he comes down, and the first people he goes after is Israel, the chosen nation of God who gave birth to the Messiah. So he goes after them first. But verse 14 gives us an explanation in more detail of what verse 6 was telling us. And the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half of times from the face of the serpent. So I said that last time, times, and half a time is 3.5 years, because the word time is referred to in years. Time is a single year. Times is plural. 2 years and a half is 3. That's 3.5 years. Again, referring to the last 3.5 years. So for the last 3.5 years, she is protected by eagle's wings. Now, who are the eagle's wings? And I think I said this before, that I knew who this was. And you got to go back to Daniel 7, and it kind of gives us an understanding of who that is. Chapter 7, sort of verse 4, or verse 3. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, the verse one from another. The sea, when it talks about sea, many waters, it always it's referring to ethnic groups. It's referring to nations, the world, the people of the world. Coming up out of the sea is coming out of the nation, out of the groups of the world, is what it's referring to. Verse 4, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given to it. So this vision, of course, is referring to end time stuff, because you have these same beasts, and hopefully I get to it in chapter 13, the same beasts that are talking about. So it's referring to kingdoms that are at the same time of the end time. So when you look at the lion, we know the lion, the mascot of England is the lion. It has eagle's wings. Eagle's wings were plucked off until it was able to stand on its feet and was given a man's heart. The head is the United States. The eagle is the United States, and so is Uncle Sam. And that's what that's referring to. We broke off from England, and we became Uncle Sam. We became America. So that is showing that America is in prophecy, and that she will help Israel, as she always does, in the middle of this thing, give protection. And I'll just read the other beast real quick. And behold, another beast, the second like unto a bear. The bear is Russia. That's theirs. Verse 6. I'll just finish verse 5. And it raised up itself on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Russia loves to do this. Verse 6. After this, beheld, lo, another, like a leopard. Leopard is Germany. It had upon it, the back of it, 4 wings of a fowl. That's France. France is a rooster. That's a fowl. France and Germany is always, especially nowadays, have a very close relationship right now. And the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion were given to it. Now the 4 heads, talking about the leopard. When you talk about Germany, that just spells out Germany. There's been 3 Reichs. The first was German Empire. The second was the Weimar Republic, and then the Nazi Germany. Hitler was the Third Reich. It has 4 heads. So the next one coming will be that of the Antichrist rule. It also talks about a head, and I think this is in chapter 13, if I can get to it, which shows that the leopard had one of its heads. The 4th one becomes the one that had a wound that was to death, and it was healed. Going back to 1945, after World War II, they said Germany have started all the world wars, and now we're going to put an end to it. So they put that Berlin Wall up and split Germany into half. And they claim she's now dead. She has been killed. Germany is no longer, she is dead. And it's in all the papers and magazines at that time when that took place. And then, of course, in 1989, what took place? The Berlin Wall was dropped. That deadly wound was healed. And it's still referring to Germany. And it refers to it in chapter 13, the first few verses there, the same thing. All right, I want to go ahead on further. So this shows you that the United States will come and will protect Israel for 3.5 years. So he will not be able to get to her like he wants to within those 3.5 years until the very end. And at the very end, he will be able to come in. He will come from the north, and he will come in, and he will just about destroy her. And then Jesus Christ will come with the saints, and Armageddon takes place. Verse 15. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. What he's talking about there is his deception, his lies. He tries to deceive people about her. He's trying to gather people up against her at this point. But verse 16 tells us, the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. He didn't get what he wanted at that point. He will 3.5 years later. He'll get what he wants, and he'll get the world to come against her again. But at this point, it doesn't happen. It's not time. And verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. He can't get Israel, so he goes after the Christians. Then it describes this, where the remnant of were the ones who came, were the remnant, the Jewish Gentile church. But then also it tells you the ones who have the testimony of Jesus Christ. That's not the Jews. Jews did not accept Jesus. They don't have the testimony. Only Christians have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So that tells me that the Christians are still here during this time, because he goes and persecutes us. Remember what verse 11 said. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, word of their testimony, and not loving their lives unto death. We love this pre-trib rapture talk because it gets us out of suffering. It's what it does. But we are made to suffer. That's what all the New Testament tells us. And to tell you the truth, you can look this up. You can Google it. There was no mention of anything about pre-trib rapture until the 19th century. It's a 19th century teaching. It was brought up by a man named John Darnsby. And there's a certain reason why he did that, because he had heard prophecies of someone speaking that told about persecution in the end times to the church. And he didn't like that. So he came up with this doctrine that we love, that a lot of people love. But before that, it was never talked about. And then the mid-trib, that came up in the 60s, because they started seeing that the tribulation never started actually until halfway through, which they're right on that part. But they still think that we're supposed to be pulled out. The scriptures tells us that he's going to come against us. We're going to have persecution. We're going to have to stand up for the things of Christ. And we're going to have to, if you think about this, there's going to be people who come to God during the tribulation period. There's going to be a great revival it talks about during the last final 7 years. How's that going to take place if the church is not here? Who's going to tell them how to be saved? You think they're just going to be able to pick up a Bible and figure it out themselves? Think about this. Think about it. And I want to go real quick, if I can, into 13. Chapter 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns. Here's that is, again. And upon his head the name of blasphemy. Again, showing you the marriage of the two. The false prophet, the religion, false religion, and the political world. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and the mouth is the mouth of a lion. So here we have those beasts again. If you notice, the eagle's not mentioned, because it becomes a help to Israel. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So this is referring to this combining of these kingdoms into one world government. And the dragon, the devil, is the one giving it its power, its authority, and its place in the earth. And I saw one of the heads as it were wounded. Here's what I was talking about. Wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. That's referring to Germany, because remember it said it saw a beast like unto a leopard. The feet were like a bear. The mouth was like a lion. So the heads were a leopard, and it's referring to this. And they worship the dragon, talking about that these kingdoms worship the dragon. That's the devil, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him. They love what has happened. They love what the devil has done as he's pulled into this one world government. And they love it. Said, who can come against this? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, as referred back to the things he tried to do before with the flood. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So he has power. This Antichrist has power for 42 months, which is 3.5 years. So he reigns for this 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth, verse 6, and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So he begins to open things up and blaspheme God himself. Verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war, here it comes again, with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given over to him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So he was given power this whole time to make war with the saints. It's the same thing that it said in verse 17, that he's going to come and he's going to persecute the church because he couldn't get to Israel for this whole 3.5 years. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Verse 10 is pivotal. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints during this time. Their trust has got to be placed into God, no matter what takes place with them, if they're taken into captivity or if they're killed with the sword. Go back to verse 11 in chapter 12. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives even unto the death. We need to be prepared and know what's going to take place, because we have a place in this earth and things that has to be done. Where it talks about the saints will do great exploits. This is where it's referring to as during this time. We will have to know and understand what our part is in all this. It is still to reach souls. It is still to be the testimony of Jesus Christ, the light on this planet. The end of the age doesn't come until Jesus Christ comes back, which does not take place until the end of the final 7 years or the 70th week. So we're still in the age of grace during that time. The tribulation period is not a dispensation. It is a period of time. So therefore, the age dispensation of grace is not in until Jesus Christ comes back. And then starts the next age, which is the millennial age, where he rules physically here on the earth for 1,000 years. And then after that, when that ends, it's eternity. Studying the book of Revelation is important to us because we need to know our part. You cannot, as I said last time, there's churches who say we don't need to be in here, we don't need to look at it, we don't need to read it because we're not going to be here. These scriptures tells us we are. We do need to know what we need to be doing. Other than that, why is it in our Bible? Why in the world would the Lord keep it for us to know these things if we did not have a part in it? Anyways, I hope this sheds some light for you. We'll continue some of these thoughts in later episodes of this as well. And thank you for your time. I know it went over 20 minutes, but I think it was important enough to do so. God bless, and we'll see you next time for another 20 Minutes of Truth.